Hey everyone, what is going on? My name's Arch Alive, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Raid World War II. It just came out a week ago on console, and it's been out on PC for a couple of weeks, and I imagine people probably want me to talk about it, considering the amount of Payday stuff been putting out recently. And I'm going to put my opinions across. It's not quite a full review, it's more first impressions, because I haven't had a great deal of time to play it, what with the uni happening. And also on Thursday, episode 2 of Life is Strange Before the Storm came out, so for those of you who know how much of a mega fan of that franchise I am, that's kind of consumed me since Thursday night, and I haven't been able to play Raid because I've been playing that. But I've literally sat down and written a ton of stuff on my phone. I did record this on Wednesday, but it was kind of just a bit of a mess, and I kind of just threw things out into the air that weren't really very well ordered. So I decided this time, while I was on the train home from uni, I would sit and write a full thing of notes of the good sides, bad sides, and basically I've organized into something that makes it into a decent at least video. And that was a weird voice crack, but yeah, so I've got the points. I'm going to talk through them and personally give my opinion on the game. And hopefully you guys will benefit from it. If you do benefit from it, then let's hope that it will influence whether or not you're going to get the game. Whatever you want to get is, up to you. So first off, probably the most important point, is it a reskin of Payday? Yeah, there's literally no doubt about it. In terms of the way the game works, it's on the same engine. I think it's called Diesel. Same objectives, it's 4-player, it's a co-op, it's a shooter, you're robbing things, and you've got endless waves of enemies coming at you. It's literally Payday, but World War II. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And let me explain, because Payday 2 is a very popular game among its fans, and people do really enjoy it. So for a game to copy it in that kind of sense, not the same kind of style, doesn't mean the game itself's going to be bad, just that, it might kind of lean a bit too much on how it works and isn't really able to stand on its own morals and its own achievements. But I would say that the way that the game works, it's distinct enough and different enough from Payday in the smaller things and the smaller little changes and stuff I'll get into, that I would say it's kind of distinct enough for it to not be a direct copy, just a heavily influenced title from Payday 2, which I think is okay. I think that's more than alright. I mean, there are loads of games. I mean, if you look at Battlefield and Call of Duty, Titanfall, all these big shooter games, they're so similar to each other, but they're not necessarily identical. They just share a lot of features, and it's just the same with Raid World War II and Payday. They're not exactly the same game, they're just very similar. The thing I like to point out is the characters, for the first thing, are very strange. I get a Treyarch Zombies feel from them. And not for the humor or anything, I don't think they're anywhere near as good as them, but that's the vibe that I get. It's kind of like 4 people, all from distinct different backgrounds. You've got British, Russian, German, and American. And they all kind of interact well with each other. They all kind of, get involved with each other, and they're all unique characters. And I kind of like the way they've done that, the way they've gone about it, because especially with Payday 2, when it started out, it was just 4 Americans. At least it was supposed to be 3 Americans and a British guy, but obviously the old Hoxton voice actor wasn't brought back into it until after the game released. But it started off with 4 Americans. There wasn't a lot of diversity there, but you wouldn't expect it for an American bank robbing shooter. But for this game, the way that it's all different, because it's a World War II game, I really dig that, and I really like the way that they work. And the raids themselves, they're quite unique and they're quite interesting. There's not really any that are kind of the same style. Each of them have their own little objectives. So for Odin's Fall, you're destroying a Nazi blimp. For Gold Rush, you're robbing the Nazi treasury to get their gold. For Trainwreck, you're stopping a train, literally going across a bridge. You're blowing a hole in a bridge to stop the train to steal what's on it. There's loads of different ideas and stuff in there, and I really like where they all go. Not all the heists are brilliant. For instance, one called Wiretap, which is kind of intercepting German Nazi signals. It's good and all, but it's a little bit boring when you do it more than once, personally. But there is always a heist that you don't want to do a lot. Like on Payday, there are certain heists that I don't want to do over and over and over again. For instance, the Bomb Forest, which I know I won't be the only person to say that, but ironically, the Bomb Forest is also developed by Lion Game Line, who are the developers of this game. And that's what's funny, because the actual case of the game says it's from the creators of Payday 2. And I don't really agree with that, because while Lion Game Line did make the bomb heists, they didn't make Payday 2. That's Overkill. They're both Starbreeze Studio companies, but Almir Listo and Ulf Anderson and all the people who have been involved with running and manufacturing, creating the game, they aren't Starbreeze people, they're Overkill people, or at least Ulf was before he left to start a new game company, or actually working on something similar to Payday as well, but that's for another video. But yeah, so I don't quite agree with that, but either way, all the raids are really kind of unique and distinct, and I do like that. Whether or not each of them individually are good or bad, that's a different matter, but they have gone for something, quite interesting. I haven't played through quite all of them yet. As I've said, I haven't really had loads of time to put into the game. Uni's been pretty hectic recently, and obviously, as I said about Life is Strange, so, time to put into the game hasn't been major, but it's, you know what, from what I've played about half, maybe just more than half of the raids at this point, and I really like what I've seen so far. There's one that I'm really interested to look at, which is called Rogue's Gallery, but that's kind of a what's known as a secret raid, I think it's called. Might be a different time, might be a bonus raid. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but one of them is called Rogue's Gallery, and it's literally a complete reskin of jewelry store from Payday 2, and I've seen some gameplay of it. It looks amazing, and I really want to play it, but I haven't got access to it yet. Again, I'll explain that later. But before I do kind of good sides and bad sides, I just want to give a little bit of time to stealth, because as someone who does quite a lot of stealth stuff, someone who is, you know, without sounding too kind of up my own backside and, you know, big-headed and everything, I am pretty good at stealth in Payday 2. That's not me kind of showing off, I just am. I'm not the best, I'm nowhere near perfect, but I can do stealth. So I want to talk just a little bit about it in Raid World War 2. I haven't done loads of it yet, but my first impressions, I quite like it. I like how, for instance, you have your knife out constantly. I know on Payday 2 on PC, you can always have your melee weapon out, like at any time you press a key and it's out there. But on console, you can't do that. You have to hold the melee button down, where it's like charges the melee attack for it to be out. There's no actual button you can press where you just hold your melee weapon like you would hold your gun. So the fact that that's in Raid is quite nice. Little small thing, but, you know. But the other thing is, there's no body bags in this game. If you kill a guard, you just literally pick up the body, lug it over your shoulder, and move it to wherever you want it. And I kind of like that, because it means stealth would, in theory, be a lot easier. But on the other hand, it's not so much, because the suppressors aren't a thing. I know World War II suppressors weren't that major, but I'm pretty sure they at least existed. You know, I mean, look at COD World War II, you can put suppressors on your SMG on the fly. Suppressors were a thing, just even if they weren't as common. But in Raid World War II, as far as I know, there is literally 0 suppressors. So if you're trying to control a situation where, say, more than one guard has spotted you, like one guard seen you and another one has, and you could kill both of them quite easily with a suppressed gun, you can't just run up to them with a knife out like it's Donkey Kong or something and just run up and try and pound them, because by the time you do, they've already called for backup and it's gone loud. So while it's kind of cool that you can, you know, kill guards and move them and you can kill as many as you want, and there's no pages on top of that, so you don't have to kind of sit around and answer a pager, I don't like the fact that you can't control situations easily in stealth. If you make one mistake, you can't redeem yourself from it. So that makes it a lot harder than Payday, I've got to be honest, but I don't know, I suppose it might be something to get used to, but on top of that, the detection, I've got to admit, while it sounds really blunt and I sound like I'm being very negative at the start of the video, the detection, honestly, is just a bit stupid. Because if you've got your back turned to somebody who is detecting you, you can't actually tell how close to, you know, full detection, like the meter going red, that he actually is. Because with Payday 2, no matter where the guard is, if they're behind you, to the side, you can't see them on screen, you have a detection meter that fills up and goes up towards 100%, so you know, oh, I better run, this is not good. If you have that on Raid World War 2, it's basically kind of like, you know, when you get shot in like Call of Duty or something, and it has kind of like a bloody arc that points you roughly in the direction of from your proximity where the person is who's shooting you. It's like that. There's like a white little mini arc that tells you the direction the person who can see you is, but it doesn't tell you if you're gaining detection, if you're actually in a place now where you're losing it. You could sit in cover and it'll still be there for 3, 4, 5 seconds while it's cooling down. You literally have no way of telling unless you turn around to look. And turning around and looking in the middle of a street or the middle of an alleyway or the middle of a corridor is really not very practical for stealth, so I really do hope they improve that, because that does annoy me. It just feels really finicky, and the detection is just a bit too long range as well, but that could just be me. Maybe I haven't practiced it enough, but that's just something I wanted to pick up on. And specifically because I've been stealthing Odin's Fall quite a lot and trying to get that done. It has some nice little, you know, red light rooms that are scattered across the actual flak turn. Which are like kind of like little supply closet rooms. And I noticed another YouTuber, General Badass, when he was playing the beta, he tried to get in one of them and realized you couldn't. There was like an invisible wall. I noticed it too, because it would be really handy to hide in those rooms for guards to not spot you. But it turns out after playing it loud that they're guard spawns. They're just really not well shown, so a guard will sometimes run out of it. But you don't know that, so if you want to hide in that room, you'll end up running into an invisible wall, and then, you know, it's basically Trouble Street. But either way, the stealth is interesting, and because it's so different to Payday, that's good. But I just don't like the way the detection works. I know they've already improved it from the beta, but it's nowhere near perfect, and that does need addressing, I've got to be honest. But let's move on anyway. Let's not be too negative, because we're going to look at the positives and things that I think might actually possibly be better than Payday 2. Because while it is a copy, to a certain extent, there are certain things it does interestingly that might be better than Payday 2, but that's kind of up to opinion. So first off, meds and ammo. Now, they don't handle it the way Payday 2 does. You don't have medic bags and ammo bags. What you have is little health and ammo pickups that are scattered across the map, usually in crates you open or lockpick open. And basically what that means is there's a finite amount of supplies you can have, just like Payday, but you have to share them across the whole team, and I don't know whether they last quite as long as Payday supplies do. But it's cool because it kind of means you can just explore the map. It prompts you to have a look around what they've designed, and I really like that because you can kind of explore and you know, see what's going on. But I do like that. It's very different, and not being able to deploy ammo and med bags takes a bit of the uniqueness away from your character. I do grant that you can't have a specific ammo or med build or whatever build. But I kind of like the way they've done that, because the way that they have the collectibles in this game, dog tags, that's something else I'm going to get into in a bit. They're kind of like packages from Payday 2, but there's a lot more of them. So if you're running around looking for meds and ammo at the same time, you can be looking for dog tags, because they are beneficial. Again, I'll get into that later, but yeah, it's good, because it encourages map exploration, and I do really like that. On top of that, you don't need a specific stealth build. I probably should have talked about that with stealth, but either way, you basically only have your knife out. Like I said, there's no suppressors, so you can just kill a guy with a knife, and that's all you can kill them with. But on the other side of the argument, does that mean that stealth is lacking because there isn't a unique way to tackle stealth heist in the way that, you know, you have to have a specific build? It's kind of something you weigh up the positive, negative, which way do you go? I'm not too sure, but you don't need a specific stealth build is good, because if you get spotted, then obviously you can just switch to your weapons and carry on the fly, go in loud. There's no need to stop and restart if you get spotted, if you aren't bothered about being spotted and can just handle it. Next up, customizing your look is something I didn't really expect to be talking about, but you can actually customize the top and bottom half of your players with, you know, different outfits. Most of them are hidden behind the loot boxes, which are given at the end of raids, like mission rewards. That's a whole different thing of its own that I keep saying I'll get into later, but it's all this one topic I'll be getting into. But yeah, most of them are hidden behind that, but the fact that there is that option, you can customize it, I do really like it. Even if most of them are hidden behind rewards. On top of that, opportunities. That's a really weird thing, but it's like raids, but what happens is instead of it specifically loading up a map and going from there, you literally come straight out of your safe house, or what's called camp, and go out and wander the map around. I think it's literally in Berlin. So there's specific tasks you have to do, and you just wander around and explore and get to know things, which I think is quite cool. There's like a little free roam aspect to a certain extent, which I don't know how really fluid that is, really, with a game like Payday 2, Raid World War 2 style, because I don't really feel like, you know, that for like a thieving first-person shooter that free roam should be that much of an option, but it's interesting. I just find them a little bit difficult and a bit vague at the minute, like the Clear Skies one, trying to find radio transmission towers to hack. I drove around for ages and couldn't find one. Maybe I'm just blind. It could just be that. And the other one, Rheingold, I found really challenging. It was on normal difficulty, but we got ambushed, and there were so many snipers. And because I had a shotgun, I tried to use my pistol, but it was so weak that it just couldn't kill the snipers very easily. And then I ran out of ammo, and then I was dead. So it just, I don't know, feels a little bit difficult, a little bit lacking, like, kind of obviousness. Not a real word, but for want of a better one. So maybe I'm just bad, probably is that, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. I do like the concept of opportunities. And also, the characters actually talk to each other during Heist. It's not in the way that they do in Payday 2, where it's like, oh, Dallas, get me up, or Chains is in a pickle, as the common meme goes. But it's like actually, as they're going through the objectives, they're like, ooh, let's do this, shall we, chaps, as the British one would be like. And then someone else would be like, yeah, let's find a door. What do we do when we get in there? Well, I think we'll do this. Like, they actually have a proper conversation, and I really like that, because they don't do that in Payday 2. And I think that's actually a really cool kind of, you know, route to take, the way that the characters actually are interacting with each other. But that sums up the good sides. Now, there is a bit more to the negative side, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's worse, because I think some of the positives that I've just talked about are really strong ones. Not all of these negatives are really big down ones. There's a big issue, obviously, I've mentioned a few times now that I'll get into in a minute. But let's start off with the level cap. As far as I can tell, it's level 40. And if you know what I'm like at Payday 2, I've been max level for nearly a year now. And adding them all together, if you don't count infamies, I've leveled up 2,500 times. So for there to only be 40 levels in Raid, I don't imagine it'll stay that way. They probably will increase level cap at some point, but right now, that's worrying, because it feels like the ceiling's going to be very easily reached. I've said to you guys I haven't played much of Raid. I'm already level 10 though. While I know it'll take more XP to level up the further I get, the fact that I'm already a quarter of the way there in terms of actual numbers is slightly worrying, I'm not going to lie. The skills feel very linear as well, and there's not really much depth and customization. You can't really assign your points to different areas. Every time you level up, you get an opportunity to pick from 3 skills, and that's it. You pick one, and you go with it. You have to pay gold, which is like the kind of the currency in the game, to respec it, and you have to go from start. It just feels a bit, I don't know, a bit forced, a bit linear, and not really as kind of customizable as I would have expected from a game that's so heavily influenced by Payday 2, but I don't know. On top of that, the classes don't really feel too distinct. When you first start your game up, you pick a class of raider. There's like recon, insurgents, there's demolitions, and there's another one which is the oh, I can't remember what the last category. It might be LNG. I'm not quite sure, but either way, they say, you know, they specialize in this weapon or this weapon. As far as I know, it doesn't really make much difference. Maybe it makes certain stats on the guns more or less better than each other. Maybe you start with different weapons. I don't actually know, because you start with a couple of weapons and unlock them as you unlock the rest as you level up. But the thing that I really don't like about it is the fact that when you pick your type of raider, and then you pick your preferred character, you can't have a list of preferred characters. So if I'm not, say, the British guy Sterling, I want to be Rivet, the American guy. If I'm not Rivet, I want to be Krugen. It's like, you pick your character you want, you don't get him tough, you got to get just one of the random people. And you can't change it. Like, you actually can't say, you know what, I don't want Sterling to be my preferred character anymore, I'm going to go for Krugen. You actually can't do that. The only way you can do it is to make a fresh character, and in doing that, you have 5 slots, granted, but in doing that, you have to start from level 0 and go right the way up again. And I just think that's basically kind of a middle finger to you, kind of going, ha, you want to change characters? Tough, not happening. You've already picked your character, deal with it. So I kind of feel like that's a bit of a bad move, but either way, I don't know. I don't care too much about wanting to change my character, but I know other people are going to, so I mean, I probably would, and I would experiment with a few more characters if I could, but I'm not going to keep starting from level 0. I can't be bothered with that. Unless people really want to see me do that, I'm not really fussed, and I'm not going to go there. But yeah, let's get on to the big thing, loot boxes. Now, as I mentioned with dog tags, the way the game works is that you pick up dog tags, and then at the end of the raid, you get a loot box. And the rarity, the strength, the value, whatever you want to call of it, increases based on how many of the dog tags you've got. Usually it's somewhere in the 30s that is the amount of dog tags in the map, so it could be like 32, 35, 37, whatever. It might be a little bit lower than 30, but either way, there's quite a few in there, more than there would be packages in Payday. But based on how many you get a different rarity, and then in multiplayer games as well, there's also stats for accuracy, kills, and headshots. So the more of those team stats you actually get, you know, the highest amount for whatever stat, that actually also boosts your chances of getting something good. And from a loot box, you can either get, from my knowledge, I might be wrong here, but from my knowledge, you can either get an experience bonus, the most common one, challenge or booster cards. Challenge cards make the game harder, but also give you better rewards, while booster cards upgrade your stats for one raid on its own. Bonus raids, I think they come from those, which are like Rogues Gallery that I already mentioned, or customizable options like tops and pants for your characters. I don't think you can get gold from them, but I haven't actually got it, so I don't know. And the reason I don't know that is because all I've ever got is experience. Now, I have actually done one raid where I got a lot of dog tags. It was really close to 30. I got the best rarity case, because you don't have to have the maximum amount to get the best rarity. It's like, if you miss, say, 5 or 6, it doesn't matter, you still get the best, the highest rarity case. And all I've ever got is experience, and I've done quite a few raids. Even if I've not played it for ages, I have done quite a few. I must have done about a dozen at least. So, yeah, I don't really like that. I haven't got any challenge or booster cards, so I can't give you my opinions on those, which sucks. Can't give you my opinion on the bonus raids, because I haven't got any of them. That also sucks. And then, well, customizable tops and bottoms, you know, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but would be nice. But yeah, it just kind of feels like it's a little bit dodgy. I don't know whether you can get gold from the loot boxes, but gold is an entire topic on its own. I'm going to get into in a minute, because, oh boy, that's interesting. But I also want to note the one bonus raid I played in a public match. I think it was a bonus raid, because looking back at the list of raids I have, it wasn't there. There was basically a goal where you had to take clamps off wheels on a truck. And the back two, you know, the way like objectives are normally highlighted in yellow, so you know where to go, like through walls and stuff. They were highlighted, but there was no button prompts to take the clamps off. The first two, the front two wheels, fine. Back two, nope. Stood there for 10 minutes trying to figure out what to do, trying to try everything possible to try and get it from any angle, and ended up having to leave the public game, because there was just no way. I wasn't the host, obviously, so it wasn't my raid. But I had no idea what was going on, so I just had to bail. So that was a little bit of an issue. On top of that, I don't like how the timer works on raid, because in Payday 2 at the top of the screen there's like a timer that tells you how long you've been in your heist. In raid, you pause the game, or no, you press the select button, I think it's called, the opposite to the start button on the Xbox controller or PS4. Brings up like the amount of dog tags that you've picked up out of the total in the bottom right corner. The top right corner tells you how long you've been in that lobby, I'm pretty sure it is. So across multiple raids and going back to the safe house and everything, how long you've been in that lobby altogether. which honestly is just pointless, because you want to know how long you've been in a heist. I don't want to sit there and go, oh, this is cool, I've been in this lobby for 5 hours, that's a really fun fact I'll benefit from. I just feel like you want to know how long you've been in a heist. Like, if you've got a little bet with your friends, let's see if we can get this done in 15 minutes. Oh, we've been in for an hour and 42, was it? Oh, so not everyone's doing a maths degree like I am. Okay, not everyone can work that stuff out very easily while you're being shot at by several dozen Nazis. I think you really should rethink that and also put the timer on the screen without having to press the select button. Otherwise, just why is it there? Sounds really critical, but I just feel like it's a bit stupid at even existing if that's the chance, if that's the way they're going to do it. On top of that, the way your character reports what you need to do, they do it really out loud and do it a lot, and it's really, really frustrating. Because they will literally just keep saying it over and over again, and if you're too busy dealing with like a wave of Nazis and you can't actually get to the objective at that time, you'll keep going, oh, we need to go do this objective. Like breaking the fourth wall. Hey player, that objective I've mentioned 5 times, you still need to do it. It's like in Payday 2, you get like a reminder in text on the screen, but you can turn that off in Payday 2, and I turned it off as soon as I got the game. With this, I can't stop my character from speaking, but boy does it drive me insane. I've got to be honest, it really does. Feels like a broken record. On top of that, there's a few dodgy spawns on Gold Rush where you rob the treasury for Nazis. There's literally like a hallway under a skylight in the center of the treasury, and you literally see guards appear out of nowhere, floating in the middle of the door. They plop down and start moving and shooting at you. That could really be fixed. Can we address that so we don't see that happening? I've seen it on multiple times playing Gold Rush, so yeah, a bit of an issue. But let's move on to my final big topic, which is gold, which is the big currency. Like, you have instant cash, you have offshore in Payday. Gold is what makes the world go round in this game. You can buy upgrades for your camp, you can buy new clothes, some of them to an extent, you can respec skills, and I'm pretty sure you buy attachments with them, but I haven't seen that because in doing challenges for my weapons, I've actually been able to equip attachments, so I don't think you need gold for weapons. You might do for certain things, but as far as I know, you don't. I've literally just changed what I thought about them in that sentence. That was really clever of me. But here's the fun fact. I haven't earned any gold yet. And that's not a joke. I am at 0. I've always been at 0. And I spoke to the guy whose public match I was in, you know, when the lobby was glitchy and I couldn't take the wheel clamps off. And according to him, so he might be wrong, but he said you need 100 dog tags to get 20 bars of gold. 20. And it's like 500 for some upgrades in the camp and 250 for some of them. It honestly feels like gold is A, not being given out enough, and B, it doesn't have a lot of uses. I mean, cool, upgrading your camp is nice and all, but I mean, what else are you going to do? For me, someone who's been max level in Payday, like I said, for nearly a year, money is something that is a big objective for me. So now, instead of going, oh, I've got to try and get to the next infamy by this weekend, I'm like, oh, let's try and get to 1 billion instant, 1 billion offshore, which are goals that I've actually passed, because that's something I've stuck to. And then, because I did a lot of betting with offshore money in Payday 2 at one point, I was like several hundred million under my offshore compared to my instant. So I was like, okay, next goal is for my offshore to surpass my instant cash. Done that. My current goals now on Payday 2 are for 2 bill on each, but that's still a bit of a while off. But either way, I can't really have that goal with gold in Raid World War 2. It's really annoying me saying goal and gold in the same sentence, but you get what I mean. Because that's a big replayability factor if you're max level, and especially with the cap being 40, you're going to need stuff to do. And while the raids are fun and really good to replay, if you haven't got a point to it, why are you going to do it? So, you know, I just find that a bit dodgy, and, you know, it's just a big replay factor for me, and if it isn't there and it isn't strong enough, then I really don't see the point. So if really 100 dog tags gives you 20 bars of gold, I must be pretty close because I picked up quite a lot of dog tags, but I don't know. I really am not sure about it, but that sums up all what I have to say. So my final verdict, the game is worth the money. Don't get me wrong. I've said a lot about why there's lots of negatives, but honestly the positives were really good ones. They almost outweigh the negative points that I've said, because there is quite a lot of them, but not quite enough. So, you know, honestly, while the game is fresh, it's fun, it's new, it does have several features that I really like, it's got a few concerns that really need addressing. The loot box thing, the gold, glitches in the map, they really do need treating. And because of that, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I had wrote 7 on my phone, but having talked about it, I've decided to put it as a 6 instead. Honestly, do I recommend the game? I do. I really do. It is a fun game, and I enjoy playing it, and at the end of the day, that is one of the most important things. But it's really annoying when you play a game that you enjoy, that you know there are so many easy things that could make it so much better, but they're not being done. I know the game's only just come out, and I have to admit, I really do think we're going to fall behind on DLC with Raid World War 2, just like we did with Payday, because already on PC, before the game even came out on console, they released a double-barreled shotgun as part of update number 3. We don't have that. I presume we're probably still on update 1 from the console edition. So if we fall behind on this game as well, that's going to be really frustrating. I'm happy with being behind on DLC on Payday. It's not great, but it is what it is. You suck it up, you get on with it, at least from where I'm sat. I'm quite happy with being behind as long as we still keep getting updates, which we are. No matter how long it takes, I'm happy. But if the same thing happens again, I don't think I can put up with it for 2 games. I really don't. I just, honestly, I don't want to be really disgruntled, but I recommend the game, but I recommend that you also be aware of everything I've said when you're buying it. If you're happy to be aware of everything I've said and go into it and have fun, go for it. It's a fun game. I do enjoy it, but there are a lot of downsides. So I've been sat here talking for 25 minutes about this game. I did not think it would take that long to do this review, but hey ho, those are my views on Raid World War 2. What do you guys think of the game? Let me know down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video or if you found it helpful. It would really mean a lot because I sat typing that stuff on my phone for about half an hour. That was quite interesting to do. But yeah, so leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm being too pessimistic, too optimistic? Do you think I was too nice to the game after criticizing it and saying it was okay in the end? Or, you know, what do you think? Let me know. I'd be happy to have some comments down in the description. Or, if you follow me on Twitter, hit me up on there and talk to me about the game there. I'd be happy to discuss it with you guys on there as well. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it and that it's been beneficial to you. And other than that, I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy.